In today's gaming news, Neverwinter comes to Xbox next month, Lords of the Fallen's DLC hits the books, and we finally get some details on Crowfall. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. This is Force once again here with your day's gaming news. First up today, the Dungeons & Dragons inspired Neverwinter MMO is coming to the Xbox next month. Neverwinter is a free-to-play action MMO set in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. The game is launching on the Xbox One on March the 31st and is set to include all of the content that's in the PC version. So I enjoyed Neverwinter when I played it. You know, it wasn't without its issues, and there's apparently a lot of controversy around sort of how they went about the free-to-play model, but it is of my opinion that the more MMOs that we get to see on the console, the better off we are, because this just means more variety for console gamers as well. There are going to be MMO purists who say, no, we don't want any controller-based MMOs, but there's plenty of them out there, so you can play those if you don't like these ones. It's just options. Options are good. I like options. Next up, Lords of the Fallen, affectionately known as Dark Souls Light, is getting some DLC in the Ancient Labyrinth. This DLC will be set in a long-forgotten library locked away between the human and demonic realms. It is set to include new foes, gear, and a new lord to defeat. Lords of the Fallen's Ancient Labyrinth launches next week on Tuesday, March the 3rd. I liked Lords of the Fallen just like I liked Neverwinter. I thought it was a fun play experience, albeit not perfect. And yes, it was definitely Dark Souls Light. The combat wasn't as nuanced, it wasn't quite as challenging, but I thought it was a good game. I thought I got decent value for my money. I was a bit disappointed with New Game Plus, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't feel like it was too much more difficult, and there weren't gear rewards, really. You didn't get like better stuff. I don't remember getting better stuff unless my memory is foggy. That's quite possible. I don't have the best memory, unfortunately. What was I talking about? And last up in news today, you know, we've been talking about Crowfall for the past couple of Force feeds, but we really haven't gone into too much detail about what the game is, beside it being an MMORPG. Well, now finally, along with the launch of their Kickstarter, we got some concrete information. Crowfall is going to be a PvP-focused MMO strategy game hybrid. The game will be having PvP campaigns with various rule sets, including 3-faction PvP, 12-faction PvP, guild versus guild, and free-for-alls. Now, the campaigns are supposed to be resetting after a set amount of time, and this is sort of where the strategy element comes into play. After about a month or 6 months, campaigns will be wiped clean, and a new procedurally generated map will be produced for the next campaign. And at any given time, there's going to be, again, multiple campaigns running, and I'm assuming multiple server instances, depending on how large their player base is. Now, if you want the persistence of an MMO, that is going to be available as well, and it will be done through what is known as the Eternal Kingdoms, a moderately sized island that is persistent and includes player housing, PvE hunting grounds, and resources for crafting. And that's the other thing, even though this is a PvP-focused game, there will be a huge element of crafting because resources are not available in the PvP campaigns, only in the Eternal Kingdoms. Now, in terms of the combat itself, from what we've seen from the gameplay footage, it looks to be a telegraph system, similar to what we saw in WildStar, where your attacks will be done in an arc or an AoE, and you'll be able to dodge enemies' attacks that are done in a similar manner. All in all, this is very interesting. They just launched their Kickstarter, and within this first day, they have already hit half of their goal, which is like $800,000, which, sounds like a ton of money. So sure, they've raised a ton of money, and $800,000 is a lot of money, but is it enough to make a really good MMO? It's tough to say. I will say I am intrigued by what they're presenting here, but if anything, the last few weeks has taught us, it's got to be wary of Kickstarters. You really got to think about it. And if you're willing to contribute money to such a project like this, as interesting as I do deem it to be, you got to keep in mind it's not guaranteed. It might not go through, especially with something like an MMO, because there's so much work and so much money involved. All things to consider before you spend your money. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's episode of The Feed. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to comment in the comment section below about any of these topics discussed here today. Thanks again, guys. Once again, this has been Force, and you have just been force-fed. Look, I like what they're saying, I like what they're talking about, but if I've learned anything about Kickstarters, it's that you can't trust them. They promise you the world, and they just let you down. Exactly like my ex-girlfriend.